Good day, everybody. Welcome to Coffee with a Coach. You're with Doug Courtney. This platform was about giving coaches an opportunity to speak about how they feel during seasons, how they navigate seasons, things they do to help them. Do they have a mentor and things like that? And what do they do off court to help them relax and de-stress? Because I know seasons can be quite stressful. Regardless at what level that you're at. I've got our special guest coach, Mike Fitchett, currently coaching at the Nelson Giants this year. Go Giants. Him and I have had a long association with coaching, which has been quite special, but he can introduce himself about what he's doing at the moment, who he's coaching, and how did he get to where he is today. Kia ora, Mike Fitchett.
Dougie, good to be here, mate. Good to see you on the other end of the computer, and good to see you looking happy and healthy.
Thank you very much, mate. Yep, things are on the mend, on the road to recovery. Give us a lowdown. Where did it start? Obviously, I've done a little bit of digging around and talked to some people about, where you. I know you had an illustrious playing career, and we just spoke about that off here, which was quite good. But talk us through high school. How'd you get into basketball? Because I know there was a bit of toing and throwing between cricket, medium pace. He'd like to say fast, but he's taking medium pace for now.
Yeah, I like to talk up my cricket ability, but it really wasn't that good. No, I've like basketball's been in my family. Dad was actually a rugby player as a kid and a grown up. He played a little bit of Nelson Bay's rep rugby. He was a winger. For those that see him now, it'd probably be a bit of a surprise, but he was a winger.
Definitely a surprise.
But when he finished playing, he's a teacher. Both mum and dad are teachers, and coaching's teaching. So probably no surprise I got into it. But Dad moved into basketball. He had played at high school in Christchurch and moved into coaching. So my first memories, Dad was coaching at Tararua College in Pahiatua. And,
wow.
Yeah, small school. And we used to head over every Friday night for Friday night school ball. We'd drive over through the gorge, and I'll be sitting up there. I was like 3-4 years old, sitting in the middle of the minivan. And we always have McDonald's on the way home, so that's also maintained a lifelong.
Yes, it has. and probably, I'm thinking, no McFlurries back then.
Nah, chocolate milkshake though.
Oh, good work.
So Dad coached, and then we moved back to Nelson. So Mum and Dad are both Nelsonians. I was born here, but we moved away for a few years when I was 1 to 5, and we moved back, and I spent my whole primary school, intermediate, and college in Nelson. Nelson College, Dad ran the program there. So Mum and Dad were both teaching at Nelson College. Dad ran the basketball program. So I was always around, going to every practice with him. And
I could just see you as a gym rat in there every time you could get.
I was in there like 1 year. It was awesome, actually. 1 year when I think I was third form, I'm sure you got lots of young people watching, Doug, in year 9. The Giants made the finals against the Auckland, can't remember, Rebels or Stars or whatever they're called then. And the Trafalgar Centre was booked, so they had to have game 1 of the final series at Nelson College.
No way.
Oh, it was amazing. And they brought in, because our backboards and hoops weren't quite good enough, they brought in the Trafalgar Centre hoops and screwed them onto our supports. And they didn't take them away until the start of the next season. So I had 6 months. We were living in the boarding house. Mum and Dad were housemasters at that stage. So I'd go every day down to the gym, shoot on the Giants, backboards and hoops, trying to shoot bank shots like Nenad Vucinic from the foul line, and then try to shoot a couple of lefties like Phil Jones. So I was in the gym all the time, just following Dad around, and then just played mini ball, played intermediate, played college, and I made the Nelson College A team pretty early. So I went to 5 nationals, and we ended up winning in my 7th form in 2000. We
obviously, that was probably your biggest high school memory, winning a national champs secondary school.
Yeah, Dad had been for 20 years straight to nationals and hadn't been able to crack it. That Tararua College team actually finished 4th when he was there.
Wow.
Yeah, so they were pretty good. And then he had a Nayland College girls team that made the top 4, but we'd sort of disappointed every year at Nelson College, finishing 9th and 5th in different places. And we cracked it. we were pretty lucky. Mika Bakona turned up for a seven form year, so that helped. And
that's good luck. That
was really lucky. And we had Ollie Hill, who's Stan's son and Ben's brother, 6'10" beast, and a bunch of really good players. So we won that title, and by then I was already playing in the Giants and getting coached by Nenad Vucinic and playing with Judd Flavel and Phil Jones and Ralph Lattimore and imports. So I was really lucky. Small town, you get that opportunity a bit earlier to go into that, play against those better players in the higher level. So it's actually something we're trying to bring back with the Giants now. We've got a bunch of high school kids in the team, and those guys are getting a pretty good experience. So now that's kind of my basketball journey, and then I was off to playing in the NBL and lucky enough to have a few years with the Tall Blacks too. So
awesome. I do want you to bring back though, because I did see a photo of 2009, the Giants, and the way sometimes they were on the beach, sometimes they were in the gym, like the team photos. Mate, if you can bring that back, that'd be fantastic. There's some goodies in there.
Oh mate, we actually replicated one a couple of years ago, and it's quite creepy. You have to go have a look at the 1991 and the 2021 posters. They're pretty good. But actually, 2009, Dougie, that was the year I was at Waikato.
Yes.
So I did have a few years where I didn't play for the Giants. I had 3 years with the Nuggets and 1 year with we were the Pistons, eh? And
we were the Pistons, yes.
And won the title there, man. We had a squad that year, so good memories.
Definitely did. So was it just a natural progression from playing, being around the sport, just to jump into a bit of coaching?
Yeah, so I guess I took a gap year after high school before I went to university in Dunedin, and I'd already done some coaching. I'd coached an intermediate team all through high school. I'd done some junior coaching. I'd helped Nenad out at Nelson Summer Camp at quite a young age. And that gap year, I did like our Giants and Schools coaching program.
Yep.
I was going around schools. I was running the intermediate league in Nelson, and already coaching sort of the elite junior under 15, under 17 groups as a young person. And I think, I don't know, I always was told as a player, you'll make a great coach. And that was kind of my playing style, was point guard and telling people what to do, and probably annoyed a few of my teammates, no doubt. But I was a confident, outspoken sort of person on the court and off the court from a young age.
Yep.
And I got into coaching through Dad, I guess, and through the Giants program, and coached a few junior rec teams and kept it going. Like, it's a big part of what the Giants have done always, and most of the clubs in the league do, is you go out to schools to help with the funding and go coach kids. And I did that, but we also did the elite junior stuff with Nenad, and he, after a couple of years, I think he was like, "Oh, this is sweet. Fitch can run it. I don't have to do it anymore." So
I do remember those summer camps were pretty cool. I'd come down 1 year when Tab was down there as well, and run a summer camp here and there. So it was definitely a great starter for a coach to be amongst those types of kids who are ready to jump into some stuff and learn and like sponges and soak it all in. So just a sort of bite your teeth, so to speak, as a coach, to be amongst that sort of thing.
Yeah, well, you read about those ones in the States, right, where they used to have the ABCD camps and all those things, and the coaches would go and run a station, and now he's making $8 million coaching some college team. But that was the same sort of thing in those Nelson camps. You come in and learn from a bunch of really good coaches, which I got to do when I was young. I make no, I'm not the best coach in the world, but I was really lucky. Nenad Vucinic was in my backyard when I was a junior.
Yeah.
All I had to do was listen to him and sponge in everything all his knowledge. He's a basketball genius, and so I got that from a young age. So I know we're going to talk about mentors and stuff like that, but he's certainly a guy that I'm really, really lucky to have been involved with since I was 14. I guess he first started coaching me.
Wow, that's definitely a long period of time, having someone of who has so much knowledge of the game and who is passionate about the game to listen to and obviously direct you and like you said before, mentor you in certain situations. Because like me, when I first started, it was quite lucky when Tab Baldwin was around.
Yep.
And then the high performance program started. So being involved in that, and that was just skills training. So that was the start of me doing some things in and about basketball, but having a person like that caliber to talk to is just like amazing. And it's just lucky, I guess, at the right place at the right time. And sometimes those things happen.
Big time. And I think the quality ones too are the ones, like, I'm sure you can jump on Messenger and hit tab and he'll come back to you with an answer, you know?
Oh yeah, well, absolutely. And classic example, first time coaching under 17 New Zealand team. I had one young man, I can't remember his name anymore. Oh, Stephen Adams, he played. And then we had a 3-game series against Australia. And then he was the guy I was talking to, Tab was the guy I was talking to prior and post that sort of series, because obviously that was brand new for me. And there was someone I could bounce some ideas off as well. So that's fantastic to have people like that.
Well, talk about trying to get your junior teams to have a belief that we can beat Aussie.
Yes.
Tab was the guy that did it for us at a senior level, so pretty good guy.
Absolutely. So after summer camps, what was the first sort of team that you got into?
I'd coached a couple of rep teams while I was playing for the Giants, but the playing stuff was really the focus. And then I retired. When did I finish? When I was about 29, 30. My hips gave out.
Mate, you're still young. Couple more.
I was very athleticism was never my thing, and then my hips went, and I couldn't keep up. And then we moved to Auckland. I got a job up with the Breakers in their office. I studied law down in Dunedin, so I had that degree behind me. I never practiced as a lawyer, but they brought me in. They had some office jobs they wanted me to do, and I think they thought I could help out a little bit with the academy as well. So got a job up there, and the Duluth College job was advertised, and I applied for that because I knew I wanted to coach. So I applied for that job and was lucky enough to get that. And the person in charge of basketball was our good mate, Grant Truman.
Great guy.
So that was my first high school job, and man, I look back at that, man, I made a lot of errors. I was so stupid. We actually lived on site. After the first year coaching there, I became an assistant housemaster at the school. And our place was 50 or 100 meters away from the gym. And my wife tells me she could hear me screaming at the kids from home. She was like, oh no, Mike's going to be in a bad mood when he gets home. And, so I sort of cut my teeth in that with that group. And then I was really, really lucky. I kind of got a New Zealand junior team pretty young. So I picked up that, had a really good coaching staff with yourself, Dougie, as my sort of lead assistant coach. And then Ben Sheet came on as our other assistant coach, and Truman as our manager. So I had 3 years coaching that group. And by that time, I'd sort of worked my way in with the Breakers Academy and working with Judd and Dave Mackay there, working with some pretty darn high-level athletes. Yeah. We were really lucky.
How'd you find it? Obviously, talking from a coach who's coached, say, at a high school level and then going to New Zealand level and then ultimately being in the Breakers Academy environment, pretty much starting that group, correct?
Judd had it going for 3 or 4 years by the time.
Oh, okay then.
He had it up and rolling. I can't take any credit for the starting of it, but jumping into those, like when I first started coaching, man, I was full of confidence. And I think my confidence has probably gone like this as a coach. But my realism or reality has gone like this, Yeah. So I went into that New Zealand program like, oh, yeah, I know. I got this, no problem. And I was lucky I had you there and Sheedy there. But we did pretty well. We had some pretty good results. I think we finished third at 16 state champs, and we should have beaten Aussie. We did a choke job against Aussie, literally, with my voice.
Literally, that's for another podcast, that one.
But yeah, I'm just really lucky, to coach under Juddy at the academy and see what he was doing. He's ahead of his time and a lot of the things he was doing there. But to be able to work with like high-level athletes, and it's so rare. Like right now in Nelson, we've got a very good group of juniors, but I can't play proper basketball because we got one kid that's 6'7", and then we got 15 point guards. So we're working on, we're doing everything we can. And it's not so bad these days with everyone switching everything. It's actually can be quite helpful having a bunch of same-sized athletes. But up there, we had Wardenberg, Dan Fotu, Braden Inga, all these kids that were either New Zealand reps or have since become All Blacks. So we could do some really, really cool things, and it was a pleasure to coach those kids.
Yeah, sure. So coaching those high-level athletes and being amongst, really good coaches like Ninid and under Judd, did they sort of come across situations where they had to problem solve, not so much X's and O's, but just working with athletes? Did you deal with athletes in a different way, or what did you learn in terms of that?
I was probably when I was working with Ninid, I'm sure he did, but I was, selfish athlete at that stage, so wasn't seeing what you're doing. Wasn't seeing what everyone else, and definitely what Ninid was going through. But I know with the academy program, it's not the Breakers system was good. Most of the kids we had were relatively affluent. They came from good families. Both parents were on the scene. If we had any problems, we could easily pick up the phone and get to mum or dad. But we did have one or two athletes that went from those situations. So for me, and coming from Nelson's pretty similar to the Shore, to be fair. So there was a little eye opener for me on that one, and just making sure you're aware, all right, what's this kid gone through this morning to get to practice? We had, he won't mind me mentioning his name, I don't think, but Rehana Torpia Maxwell, a Rosmini boy, and he was coming over from Whanau. I think he was living with his girlfriend at the time when he's 16 years old. He would walk to the train station, take the train down to Britomart, get 2 buses to get to Breakers Academy training, and he'd arrive by 6:15 in the morning. So he was, putting in all that effort, and that was something I hadn't seen before. So we just had to be kind of cognizant of not just going in and roasting everyone. And we still have high expectations, but hey, this kid's walked in with this going on in his life. This kid's walked in with this going on in his life. And that was kind of my first introduction to that. I had a very middle-class Nelson upbringing. Both my teachers were parents. I never missed a meal in my life. I'd turn up to practice, no problem, just get straight into it, no problems. But, not everyone's lucky enough to be able to do that. So as a coach, that was kind of the one, that kid needs a little bit more help, or I can't roast him today, or whatever. So
as a young coach, obviously, say you've had a bit your teeth on a few teams prior to getting to the academy, and then as a young coach, the advice would be just to, hey, understand your athletes, so you're not fire and jumping down their throats and doing this and doing that. So obviously building a relationship to find out what they're doing, especially with athletes coming through these days, because it's quite prevalent in Rotorua, where we've got kids coming from different backgrounds, so just understanding them a little bit. But as a young coach, I wouldn't have done that. I would have just, why are you late? What are you doing? And then just get straight into it. And then all of a sudden it goes, why is he not listening to me? Or why is he not doing what I'm asking him to do? So what advice would you give to a young coach to do that? Because I know for me as a young coach, I thought I knew everything, and you're going there and you go, shit, this is going to work. This is going to work. This is how I'm going to do it. And then obviously obstacles jump in your pathway.
Yeah, I think the biggest thing we've got to have from our athletes is trust, right? And they want to know that we're going to work to help them get better. They all want to get better, and they've got their own goals and individual goals. Then we've got team goals, so you've got to work to mesh those things together. So you've got to build the trust with the athletes. So I think the first thing that you got to do is do the work on the floor. You can't, it's no point naming your team, having your trials, name your team. All right, I'm going to have a one-on-one sit-down coffee with every single kid before we even have a practice. You got to do that. You got to get to know your kids. You got to put the work in first for a few weeks, make sure the kids understand, this guy's a good coach. He knows what he's doing. He's working hard for me. He's going to rebound for me after practice, whatever it is. And then you use those little mini conversations before practice, after practice, just to start finding out a little bit more. All right, what's this kid? What's happening here? Why did he come in with low energy? He hasn't got his nutrition sorted. He's not able to do that, or he's just lazy, whatever it is. You got to find those things out. And then you'll get the odd kid that you're like, hey, yo, come in, let's have half an hour and sit down and really dig into things. So you got to know the athletes as well as you can. So that's probably what I've learned as a coach. I went in X's and O's. It's all about X's and O's, X's and O's, X's and O's. Nah. What's the saying they say on I'll listen to PTI podcast every day, and was it on there? But it's like, it's not the X's and O's, it's the Jims and Joes or whatever it is.
Yeah, I've heard that one.
Yeah, so that's probably a big learning for me.
So does that change at the level you're at now?
No, not at all. Not at all. Like, the good thing now is, like, I do have the time to go and, like, all right, import comes to town, we're going to lunch. We're going to sit down 2 or 3 times. I can find out about his family. I've already done a little bit while I'm recruiting him. You find out what's going on in the background. But to be honest, a lot of those guys are quite guarded when you get to this level, that they can be a little bit guarded before they trust you. Yeah. And they're telling the physio, the assistant coach, we've got a team chaplain. They're opening up to those guys before the head coach a lot of time. So, just getting bits of information and those support staff members filtering what they're being told by the athlete to, like, what they can give back to the coach, what's important for the coach and what's confidential or whatever. That's important too. So, you got to know the people. You got to know to motivate them to train, let alone play well on a Saturday night.
Oh, you're so right. There's knowing your athletes and make sure that knowing how they tick. They do, like you said, they're not going to spill everything, but it's making sure they're all right in the right place so they can perform for you.
The first year I came down to Giants in 2019, we were quite mechanical about it, I guess. We did a personality test.
Oh, yeah.
Briggs-Myers or Myers-Briggs or whatever that's called. And that was more for me learning about getting a real immediate, like, all right, that guy's a peacock, that guy's a, wallflower, whatever, so I can have an immediate idea about it. We haven't gone back to do that, but I'm actually looking at introducing it again, the DOT system.
Explain that a little bit.
Well, it's basically another personality test, and everyone gets a different color, and the purple learns like this and prefers
right, okay then.
Given to them like this. So that can be a way to sort of fast track that process.
Definitely.
Otherwise, learning about people's learning styles and how they want to take feedback and stuff like that can take years. But you can get there a little bit quicker through that, but that doesn't build the trust. That just kind of gives you a little bit more information about your athlete.
Yeah, and with their learning style and what they like to or how to learn, so you can hit that button a little bit quicker than others. Because
I think many young kids these days would enjoy a Tab Baldwin or a Ned Adverse, like 75-minute video session.
Exactly. I've definitely, in my time, I've shortened the video sessions a lot, and probably to make sure the learning is there, probably put a little bit of funny stuff within or meshed in between, so obviously they can pick that up and then hopefully connect to what they're supposed to be learning.
Yeah, we did that. I mean, we do that at Tall Black level, right? Like, one of our concepts is bolts, so fast break. We want a Usain Bolt, run as fast as we can down the sideline, and then during the World Cup, this is when Zoe Hobbs was killing it in the European season. So we were like, I'm sitting there thinking, like, we got to get off. We're a New Zealand team. We've finally got a fast sprinter.
Yes.
Let's call it Hobbs instead of Bolts. So we added that in, added a few clips of her crushing some Australians in some of their meets. So, but they got a few laughs from the boys, and you have to add that stuff in just to perk them up a little bit. Yeah. And we're only doing 10-minute video sessions to perk them up. Kids these days.
Talk us through. Obviously, we touched on it before, mentors, and been coaching in the league now for a little while. Have you become someone's mentor, or do you still sort of message Ninit or anyone else, or to sort of grab little tidbits to help you through situations, or how do young coaches get mentors?
Yeah, good question. Again, I've been super lucky with the environments I've been in, so and that's probably the step up, a leg up, I guess, that a former player that goes into coaching has over players that aren't. Coaches that aren't former players, that I can pretty quickly pick up the phone and get to anyone, or I could at the start of my coaching career. It's, I'm 12 years away now since I last shot a ball, but Nenad, I don't have a formal mentor that I speak with on a regular basis. I've never kind of been able to make that happen. I think it's a very good theory. I think it's difficult to actually get done with how busy people are.
Yeah.
But I'm really lucky. Like, I can reach out to Nenad, I can reach out to Dino Vickerman, Andre Lemanis is there if I want him. Still really good friends with Judd Flavel. Sort of starting to build a bit of a relationship with Guy Malloy, who I think is a really impressive person, and Zico, Aaron Young, like all these guys, they're all very open. And then I'm on a WhatsApp chat with Paulie, Pero and Ross. So there's not a lot of coach chat going on in that group, but I can reach out to any of those guys whenever I want. So, let's say I consider Paulie a bit of a really good defensive mind, well, great basketball mind all round, but defense is might be his strength, or has been previously. So if I've got a defensive issue, hey, Paulie, have you got anything on this? So I'm super lucky that I can do that. I've got Claire Dallison down here, the real basketball gurus will recognize that name. She's been our Nelson Giants strength and conditioning trainer since the 90s. She lived with us. She was in Auckland. She was the Breakers S&C for a year. She's my second daughter's godmother, really good friend of ours. And she's a truth teller. So she'll either call me and arrange a coffee to tell me the truth.
Yeah.
It's always a little bit nerve-wracking. Or we'll catch up with sort of every fortnight and we'll just have a yarn. And sometimes that's just a yarn about life and about family and whatever. But every third, fourth one, there's something in there that I'm like, oh, okay, this is the message she's trying to give me. So that's probably that one. But do I mentor people? Again, no, there's no I don't have a formal program. I guess, Ben Sheep has moved to Nelson now. We all need mentors. I was going to say he doesn't need a mentor. He's very, very impressive, but we all need mentors. But we kind of bounce things off each other.
Yeah, and I guess like that mentor is someone doesn't necessarily it doesn't necessarily have to be in a hierarchy thing.
Yeah.
Yeah, it can be just someone, or I can just pick a phone up and I can message you.
Yeah.
It doesn't need to be someone that's you've held it up high on a pedestal that, oh shit, wonder if Phil Jackson will return this message. It's just like, probably not. But the coach down the road might, if you've got an issue, and it's about like we're trying to do with players is build a coaching relationship. And because you're like you said, Paulie's the guy that I think can really help me out with my defensive system I'm trying to get done. So it might be just sending a message like that, and for Dino, it's mostly, hey, how do you deal with certain parts of these imports are just driving me crazy. What are you going to do? So sending him types of messages like that sort of can help you out. So I don't think it necessarily means a hierarchy mentor, but it's someone that you value that can help you through a situation that you're struggling with.
Well, I think too, like I talk, all the names I gave were either at NBL level or above, probably, that helped me out. But like I'll ring high school coaches too and go, hey, Nuggets are running a 3-2 zone. What do you got for me? How am I going to bust this? Because when I go to high school nationals, I see a lot of 3-2 zones. So
yes,
but they're good people at all levels. There's people like yourself, Daryl Cartwright, Sheedy, really, really high level coaches at high school level. So, man, I'll learn off anyone.
Oh yeah, absolutely. And I think as a young coach too, we still have our blinders on and saying this is the thing that's going to get me what I need to get. Whereas if you just drop those for a second, you go, oh, shit, I can actually go and talk to Mike Fitchett. He's just over there because he's at the schoolboy nationals, or he's at a premierships or something like that, you know, or, oh, I can go and talk to Ben Sheath. He's down the road there. So I can go and talk to him. Because the person that I sort of have conversations with about basketball or about life is Coach Curtis Wooten down in Hastings. Like, I keep in touch with him all the time. He comes and visits me when he's up here. So we chat and catch up and just talk about everything, really.
Yeah, that's cool. He's a legend.
And basketball is just one of those things that we started our relationship on.
Yeah.
So which is great. So don't think of it as a hierarchy thing, as a mentor. Just go and approach people if you have an issue about anything.
Yeah, we are. Something I am trying to start here in Nelson is a little coaches group. So we've got Sam Dempster, Phil Jones, Ben Sheath coaching the 3 high school teams. Cat Jones is in town. We've got a couple of really good rep coaches as well. We might be as well stocked in our coaching ranks as any association in New Zealand at the moment. So I want to get us all together. And a little bit selfish because I'll find some stuff for the Giants that I can take while I might lead the session. I'll be grabbing off Phil Jones, your Whanau college team shoots the heck out of the ball. Like, what are you doing at practice? Yeah. Like, and steal something. So yeah, there is a good place for those things, but still having respect for everyone's time and energy.
Yeah, because everyone is definitely busy in this day and age, especially for coaches, and making sure that it's an appropriate time to, approach someone. Not in a timeout. That'll be sort of inappropriate. But but again, starting that relationship, and talking hoops, and you go to any tournament or whatever, and you can talk hoops to anybody.
Big time.
Which is fantastic. Now, the other thing is we've talked about some mentors. You're in the heat of pre-season, or not pre-season, but getting close to it with this year's NBL 2024. You've been recruiting the hell out of it, like everyone else has. Give us an instance of an issue that you have, or an obstacle that you've seen within the recruiting process that could possibly help somebody out. You don't necessarily have to do this year's. You can do past years or whatever. So if I'm a young coach and I'm jumping into this space, and how do I navigate? So I've talked to some people, then they've changed their mind about a team or a situation.
I think the thing that I'm still learning is to find a common connection with players, because again, if you can have someone else vouch for you on your behalf, then that's half the trust. The trust thing. So someone that they trust vouches for you, we're good. So it can be difficult. It's actually really easy with the New Zealand players, right? So we've just signed Dan Fotu. I didn't need an intermediary because I can pick up the phone and talk to Dan. He was in those academy groups, Tall Blacks, whatever. So that one, the relationship was already there, but trying to fast track that relationship is really important. So we had 2 years ago, we had Jared West as our point guard with the Giants. He had played at Louisville, Ross McMains. Ross actually said to me, hey, we've got this guy in Louisville. He's just leaving college. I think he's worth a look. I had a look at him, watched a few games. Yep, I like this guy. I think he can help. I didn't think he would be able to help as much as he helped, but he did.
He did his job.
And I said, Ross, can you reach out to this guy and just let me know, let him know what I'm about, and the type of person I am. And then, man, just can you get him to answer my texts because he's left me on blue ticks. But so having that kind of 2 degrees of separation is important. The other thing I do in my recruitment is I like to write. So I've got like a 3-page thing about the Giants. Here's our support staff. Here's where we train. Here's ABCD. So I've got that. But then for kind of every guy I'm recruiting, I like to put a little 1 or 2 page. So for Dan, for example, this is where I think to be a more impactful pro at the Aussie League level or at the consistent Tall Black, the first, one of the first chosen Tall Blacks. I think you need to work on X, Y, Z. And I like to I say that to them on the phone when I'm talking to them, but I also like to give that to them in written form so they can go away and digest it. Again, Chinese whispers on the phone. They hear certain things. I say certain things. They might hear something different, but if I write it down, we're on the same page, literally. So I like to do that, and then we can come back and have an honest discussion about, Dan might have said, hey, I might have said in my thing, like, hey, you're going to need to play backup centre for us. And he comes back and says, oh, actually, when I'm not at the 4, I want to be at the 3 because that's going to help my career. Oh, cool. Okay, now that affects different pieces of the puzzle that I'm putting in, but
again, that's the relationship you're trying to build, eh? And then obviously you have that written form, and then there's no grey area. Everyone can read it, you can talk to it, and then have that. That's definitely a discussion starter as well in terms of moving forward and how it works.
Here I had Jared West. We had train morning, and I sent something to him. Like I'd watched a few of his G League games, and I sent, hey, this is what I think you can do, and he came back and was like, man, this is awesome. I never had a coach write something like this to me. And then, so straight away, he was like a little bit impressed.
Yeah.
Which got me a foot in the door. He's still got to come up with the money.
Yeah.
About him at our level. But, it just gets the ball rolling a little bit. So just finding a way to start fast-tracking that relationship building is probably the most important thing.
I do like having it written down. Then there's no grey area, or he or she said that, and then you can just start afresh.
Yeah, and I do, like, I'll put in there like my expectation of stats. So a lot of coaches won't do that, but I'm like, Dan, I need 18 and 10 out of you. If we're going to be the team we want to be, and you want to be the player that you want to get to the levels you want to get to, this is what we need. So that kind of honesty too is, I think, is important.
Now, I think, and I've said this for years, I think the Nelson Giants do the best job at having, one, the high school kids involved in it, and then there's a progression for them going through it, and two, the longevity that they've had in the league is just like outstanding. And I know, like most clubs, and you have alluded to that funding is one of the biggest issues that people face within the league, and then having it sustainable too is making sure we can do it year after year and put a quality product out there. What sort of solutions do you have, or what sort of obstacles have you faced? And I'm talking from a young coach perspective to say, okay, if I'm jumping in this, what do I need to navigate? And obviously, I think, and we've talked to it about players and even recruiting and even coaches, is having that relationship with people. Having that voice at the table where they make those decisions is quite important. So then, like you says, it's in writing. This is what we're after. These are the steps that we need to take to get to where we all want to be. Yeah,
I think that, especially with the young athletes, if we talk about like the high school level athletes that are playing in the New Zealand League at the moment, like respecting their time and then getting on the same page as their high school and rep coaches and New Zealand coaches if they're good enough. So we're pretty lucky in Nelson, small town. Again, I see Sam Dempster 5 nights a week at practice, and Phil Jones turns up and watches most practices because his son's on the team, and Ben Sheik, my assistant coach. So there's the three. I don't have to I don't have to spend a lot of my own time seeking those guys out to have those conversations, but respecting their time and then really putting the priorities on the table with the families. So let's take Hayden Jones for an example. Like, I'm really high on this kid and how good he can be. I think he'll be a tall black eventually. So I sat down with Phil and Kat and Hayden. So Phil and Kat, his parents, and Phil's his high school coach. Phil wants to win high school nationals. He won under 17 nationals last year, so he ticked that box. He wants to win it again because he's the most competitive man in New Zealand basketball. But in my opinion, Hayden needs to start looking further at higher levels. So he's going to be probably a starting guard in that New Zealand under-17 team at World Cup this year. That's going to be as a real opportunity for exposure into the US college system if he wants to go that way, or into a pro club in Australia or Europe even. So So to me, it's like, all right, you've got this tournament in July. We're now in September. We've got, I don't know how many months that is, Doug, 10 months to get you ready for July. And we want you to be playing the best you've ever played for 2 weeks of July. That means your under 17 trainings, your high school trainings, your Giants trainings, all that has to mix well to make sure we're on the right track. We have to introduce strength and conditioning, which you hadn't done previously. So once you kind of come up with that plan, I think it's easy even for someone like Phil who wants them at every high school training and every 17 training, which is fair, to go, okay, we've got to look after this kid. He's already doing 12 hours on his feet with the Giants. He's doing 3 strength and conditioning trainings. Maybe I don't need him at the second under 17 training of the week. He can just come in for one, and you just start building that through that communication and that planning. But
that takes a lot of work, though, doesn't it?
Yeah, and I was lucky. I went through it with the Breakers Academy, so I had a bit of experience and had been through those conversations with athletes at the level that Hayden's at. So I was lucky, but yeah, it does. It takes a lot of work. I got spreadsheets with calendars and all sorts going on, and conversation with the strength and conditioning guy. That's another hour. What do we need Hayden to do? Da da da. So, but man, it's worth it in the end. You know, I got to watch Hayden put up 33 and 12 against Aussie in the final and just get pipped. I can't wait for July. I think he's going to be unbelievable at that tournament. Like, he might be one of the best guards in the world. We don't know it, you know. So we'll see in July. And, you know, if he can be a high-level pro, then
we've done our job.
It's worth it. He's also a real good kid. So, it's easy to put the work in for someone that gets in the gym, works their ass off, says please and thank you, and does all those things. We got a few of those kids that I've done that for at the moment, and they all work pretty hard. So.
No, and again, it's a great environment to be in and around, and you don't mind as coaches, regardless of what level, putting the time and effort into people who want that just as bad as you want it for them. Yeah, no worries. The other thing I want to talk about is obviously the whole season is stressful for you and puts a lot of pressures on you and your family. What do you do outside of hoops to help you relax? I know we talked about mountain biking once, and I brought mine, but you didn't show up. But that's another podcast.
It was funny. I rode my mountain bike just after Christmas with my brother-in-law for the first time in 2 years. It was nice. Got a bit of wind through my hair. It was lovely. No, the exercise one is definitely, I've found more and more important. So when we moved back to Nelson, I did buy a mountain bike, and I got out in the fresh air, and the phone, you couldn't be on your phone. That was really important. I've kind of moved that over. So twice a week now, I go to just adult fitness classes at the boxing gym. So we've got a local gym here, Victory Boxing, run by a legend around Nelson, Paul Hampton. So that's an hour, gets the heart going, go with a couple of mates as well. So a bit of banter. So I do that twice a week, and then I actually go to the gym. In the last 12 months, I've started lifting weights again, and I do that sort of 3 or 4 times a week. That kind of keeps me sane and keeps me healthy. One of my New Year's resolutions is I'm trying to do 10,000 steps every day this year, and I've done 2 days in a row now, so that's good.
That's good. You're on it. You're on it.
Only 364 to go this year. Shouldn't have clicked the leap year. But it's that health thing. And then I'm really lucky, like being the GM and the coach, I can do my own hours, and the board of the Giants are really supportive of me to just make sure I get my work done. They're not sticking me to certain hours. So really privileged in that way. So I can go out and exercise during the day, but I can also pick the kids up from school and come home and work in my office here while the kids are doing their homework or whatever. So spending time with the family, spending time with the kids, watching their sports, going and sitting on the beach during the summer and watching them do surf lifesaving practice and stuff like that. So, yeah, it's that physical stuff is really important.
Yeah. So do you carry that physical stuff, obviously, through the season too while you're coaching? Yeah,
I really prioritized that last season to make sure I kept going to that. So that boxing's Tuesdays and Fridays, which works in pretty well with the game schedule and the travel schedule. So I'll make that as often as I can during the season. And then the lifting one, I can get in and out pretty quick, 40 minutes. and get that done. But there was I consider myself a detail coach. I'm not, if there's a spectrum between Zico and not detailed at all, I'm probably somewhere around here. I'm not right at that super level like some coaches are. There's definitely a point during the week where I say, okay, we've done enough, we're ready enough. Me doing 3 extra hours on the video to something that's going to be a 0.5% return, to me, there's more value in me turning up to the game fresh, ready, clear mind, and healthy, and in a good mind space than that having that 0.5%. So I've probably only learned that over the last couple of years.
Yeah.
And that's, funnily enough, that's probably helped me relax a little bit in the games, because, as you know, relax was not my thing, and it still isn't. And I never will be, and no coach really is relaxed. But that outward showing of it, has definitely been a work on for me.
So obviously, prior to the exercise regime and doing a bit more stuff, I guess you feel a lot more primed and ready to coach through a season.
Yeah, we got to be fit and healthy. Like I'm starting to deal with my peers are starting to have real health issues. I'm getting to that age. I'll turn 42 this year, and a bunch of my peers and friends, cancer, heart attacks, all sorts of things. So it's more like I want to live a long and healthy life, and I want to see my grandkids and maybe even their children. But for your coaching, you got to. I think a good coach is one that can be on the floor, walking around. You don't have to demonstrate things. You don't have to be a coach that demonstrates things. I'm lucky that I can. As a former player, I can do a few things, but I think you have to be able to move around the court. And, you see some coaches that are just physically unable to do that because of their size or their mobility issues. I think that's kind of a bow in their coaching armor that they can't reach into, So I think it is important actually physically being able to have the health levels to be able to move around and do that. But then, you go around a toolbox tour, that thing's a drain, travel, buses, lack of sleep. Like, you got to go into that thing pretty healthy.
Yeah.
You're going to.
I haven't been in the Tall Blacks environment, but even in the New Zealand or NBL environment, when you're not even the head coach and you're the assistant coach, your hours of sleep are minimal because you're on tape. You're trying to scout for you're trying to cut up tape for the last game and the next game, and then whatever else that you need for the head coach to do. So the hours of sleep are minimal, but it's so satisfying when you get that product out, and then sometimes your team execute that stuff and you go, that's fantastic. And then it's on to the next one. But like you said before, keeping yourself healthy, because if you aren't looking after yourself, there's no way that you can do your job at 100% and obviously give the athletes what they need.
Yeah, on this last World Cup tour, I went to our giant strength and conditioning guy and I said, look, we're not going to have gyms that I can use. Can you give me some band exercises to do? Aaron Young and I went in hot and heavy in the Auckland phase of the camp, and then in Japan for a week, and then we flew to Europe, and that was our first jet lag. For the rest of the tour, I didn't do it. And I just kind of went down, but I kind of got to the point where I was like, I'm standing on my feet a lot because we're practicing once or twice a day.
Yeah.
I'd end up at practice just walking, and there'd be a drill going on, and I'd start in this corner of the half court, and I'd end up in that corner, and then next group would come in, and I'd do the same thing. I'm watching the whole time, but I'm moving my body.
Yeah.
Like, what are you doing? And I'm like, man, I'm just trying to get my steps in for the day. I don't have to stand there in a Dean Vickerman hands on knees.
Yes. That's a tough stance to be in.
Or Ted Baldwin on one knee. You can move around and get it done. So a little bit of multitasking, but super important to be fit, I think.
Yeah, definitely, for your mind and body. And I know that.
I just get my nutrition lined up. I still love an M&M and I still love a McFlurry. So,
mate, every time I stop in and I have to grab one. Yeah, and my grandkids go, Kura, what are you doing? To me, hey, this is a tradition. I want to try and keep it up.
Oh, man.
So, last question. What do you get most out of the coaching And what's sort of one or two pieces of advice you give your young coach's self? So you see a young Fitch, you give a young Fitch walking through the door, what would you say? So what do you enjoy about it, and give yourself some advice?
Yeah, cool. So when I first started coaching, the answer to that would have been, and it still is to a point, but it's kind of not as important. When I first started coaching, it was all about I want to beat the other coach. So I was maintaining that coming from a playing career where, you win or you lose.
Yep.
You're better than the opposition, or can I beat Lindsay Tate today, or no? Usually no, but sometimes yes. And as a coach, it was all about, do I have the better X's and O's than that coach? Can I beat him? Can I get the time out at the right time and better than him or her? But now it's more about the why for me is, and then it was like, how quickly can I climb up the coaching ladder? I got into that Breakers environment pretty quick, and Paulie was the head coach there when he was 35, 36 years old. And
yes,
I was
very young, very young. I'm
only 3 or 4 years younger than Paulie, and I was like, all right, I want to do that. But once I had kids, that priorities changed for me. So I wanted to spend a bit more time with the family. There was lots of reasons, and it definitely is a different podcast for why I left the Breakers. But
I did read that headline.
But the family one was really important for me, and I was like, the Breakers season it's all in the summer. It's in the best family time.
Yeah.
And I'm in Australia 2 out of every 3 weekends. I want to be around the kids and watch them grow up and have fun with them during the summer months. So that kind of why I coach, to try and get to the highest level I can, has kind of diminished a little bit. Moved back to Nelson, and it was a little bit more like, okay, I was given these opportunities by Nenad, by my dad, by Bill Delberg, by all the coaches that coached me at Nelson. And I got to play 5 years for the Tall Blacks. I got to go to a World Cup. I got to have all these unbelievable experiences as a player. And Nelson's my community. It's where I grew up. So can I give that to some future generations? Can I help Hayden Jones, James Matthews, Maya Jones, all these young athletes that we've got in Nelson? Can I help them have the cool experiences that I had in the game? That's for the high level ones. And then for the kids that just love the game, can I help them? Can I keep them in the game for as long as possible? Can they be lifelong participants rather than just, man, I had a mean high school team, Waimea College finished second at Nationals, it was awesome.
Yeah.
No, I want Jonty Bond and Will Blight and Caden Bracey. I want them to be, play as high a level as they can, but if not, stay in the game for as long as they can. So that's kind of a little bit more my focus now. Obviously, I still want to win. I want the Giants to win a title. That was part of what I experienced as a Nelson local. We won the title in 2007. I want our Nelson locals to have that. I want Sam Dempston, Tom Ingham to experience that. So I'm kind of lucky in my role. I can hit different areas, hit that junior one, help those kids, hit the Giants one. And then for my own sort of top level stuff, I've been lucky enough to stay involved with the Tall Blacks. So that's kind of why I do what I do. And then the advice I'd give to me, man, relax. I was thinking about this, Dougie. I was thinking about this. I can tell the story because I don't coach that many. I don't coach a junior kids team anymore. But I don't know if you remember, but we had the under-16s over in Geelong. We had a team. We had Unique Naboa as our point guard, Quinn Clinton, Dan Fotu, Sam Wardenberg, Tarbo. Who else? A bunch. We were good.
Yeah, we had a good team. We definitely had a good team.
Dane Samuel, we had a squad. And these kids, it's under-16 state champs. And we're in the semi-final. I can't remember who we lost to. Maybe Vic. It might have been one of the Vic teams, Vic Metro.
Metro, I think. Vic Metro. Yeah.
And we should have won. And there's a girl reffing the game. She's probably 18 years old, so a couple of years older than the player. And I'm just cussing this lady out, this young girl coaching this game. And I'm treating this like it's the gold medal game at the Olympics, like she is getting it. And I'm just seeing red the whole game. And then I come into the locker room. We have a 5-minute halftime, 10-minute halftime or whatever. And these are 14 and 15-year-old athletes. And I'm MFing these kids and I'm punching the whiteboard. And And we lost the game, and we ended up finishing third or whatever. But I remember going away from that tournament and going, man, I probably shouldn't be MFing 14-year-old kids at half time of the game. Don't do what Nena did to Mika Vakona and me when we were adults. Don't do that to the 14-year-old kids. So it's taken me a long time, and I'm still on my coaching journey about relaxing and having a calm mind and clear head and all that. But yeah, that Dilworth team where my wife could hear me screaming at the kids from 100 metres away, and that junior team where I was MFing these 14-year-olds at halftime, like, yeah, I would have just said, mate, relax. There's a better way to get the message through than screaming your head off.
But again, that you only learn that from experience, you know. But I'm glad that you had the foresight to think about and review that and say, no, I can't do that again.
Oh man,
you know, that's possibly a decision that I should have thought about a little bit more. But on reflection, you know, those are the types of things that I'm trying to get across to younger coaches is you've got to reflect on those performances. You know, it's, yes, everyone wants to win, you know, and you give everyone's competitive when they get into that. But then it's like, okay, then it's a game.
Yeah.
And then we want kids to, one, keep playing, and then obviously have a goal of playing at a higher level as well.
Yeah, I think with the aggressive language or aggressive coaching style that, you know, you see the funny clips of the EuroLeague coaches and stuff like that, like there is a place for it, but you've only got so many bullets. And as a young coach, I'd fire those bullets in my first practice. And they're like, oh God, so I mean, these guys, if any of them listen to us, will be like, what, you still yell at us? But it's much more rare. And sometimes I'll walk around the court doing some deep breathing and trying to control myself. But there's definitely a place for it.
Yes,
like,
there's still a place for it.
Do it all the time. And the respect for people and not, you know, cussing them out and making it personal is probably something I've got a little bit better at.
But again, that's what you've learned as a coach. And, you know, how many practices have you done? Thousands.
Yeah.
Hey, thousands of practices, and each one's quite different.
Now, the next thing I've got to do is make sure I learn that same lesson with the referees.
That's for another podcast.
I don't know if I've got that much growth in me.
Hey, between you and I don't think so either.
Thank you. I appreciate your honesty.
Thank you very much, Coach Fitchett, for sharing your knowledge. I definitely, there's some pieces of information that if you're not listening closely, you've missed it in terms of growth and development, looking after players, building relationships, even looking after yourself. You know, as a coach, I don't care what level you're at, you need to look after yourself as a person so you can be 100% present and be on the floor coaching. Like Coach Fitchett says, you know, you don't have to demonstrate every drill, but as long as you're in and around having those conversations, coaching on the run, you know, and doing all of those little things to help our players succeed. You can follow Coffee with a Coach on these things, and then come and join us for the next episode. Thank you very much, Coach Fitchett.
Doug, it's been an absolute pleasure. I know it's Coffee with a Coach, but I've been drinking my cup of tea, and I didn't even see you had one sip of coffee.
No, after my heart attack, but I've got to keep my caffeine levels low.
No, but in all seriousness, Dougie, these are important conversations, and I think you're the right guy to have them. You got connected into all levels of coaching and super respected around the coaching community in New Zealand. So I hope a lot of people watch all these episodes and just grab one or two things. But yeah, I wish you all the best on your health journey first and foremost, but then your coaching journey. And if we come across each other in the NBL, then I hope you lose.
Thank you very much, Coach. Catch you
Bye.
later.